Today, I am hoping to change your mind that suffering after gallbladder surgery is optional. God did not design you to suffer after surgery. If your gallbladder has been gone and you are still bloated and you're still gassy and you still can't eat the foods, maybe you're still in pain, I want you to know that you're not alone. And that is what I have dedicated this entire channel to, because I know exactly how you feel. In 2008, I had my gallbladder removed, but that was only after struggling and suffering for many, many years. And they never fixed the problem. They just took away the pain sensor for a little bit. So I still went on. I still didn't have digestion. I started having chronic fatigue. My hormones started being wonky. And the doctors had no answers. All they would say is, oh, well, you're a mother of three boys. And I spent years trying to figure this out. I put myself through school. I got a degree in holistic nutrition. I got 13 other certifications that include digestive specialist, licensed massage therapy, breath work, anything that would help me understand how my body worked and to have it work better. So I had accumulated all of this knowledge over 20 years, and I started to feel better. So it was amazing. But it really changed when I brought God into the picture. And that's why you'll hear me quote scripture, you'll hear me talk about praying and changing things in our hearts as well as in our minds and then in our bodies. So this is something that I hope that I can give you some powerful tools to take away, because there are clear answers, there is real hope, and it is all part of God's amazing design. I have spent a lot of time on social media lately, in specific groups for gallbladders, because I want to know really what people are still experiencing. And to tell you the truth, it has really broken my heart. There is so much misinformation in those groups. It's like the blind leading the blind. So their doctors aren't helping them. They're not giving them any information. There's no real protocol. There's no guidance. And so it's people just throwing out their experience as though it's fact. So they'll say things like, I am 10 days post-op. What do I eat? I had my surgery 3 months ago and I'm still constipated. Is this normal? Or they'll show pictures of their incisions. Does this look normal? And I want to say, first of all, surgery is not normal. It's common, but it's not normal. So it's not the design for our body, right? So we're not designed to be cut open and things taken out and changed. Now, for some of us, it was an option, or two, it was an emergency. But I really feel like we weren't given the full scope, any woman that I've ever talked to. So now I really want to talk about who this is for, because a lot of people get stuck with, well, I have my gallbladder. So this video is for you if you've had your gallbladder removed or recently or years ago, but it's also for women who may be looking down the barrel of losing their gallbladder, or it's for people who are just really struggling with digestion, because that's actually the problem. Again, in these groups, people will say, oh, the gallbladder, once it goes bad, it's gone. You can't fix it. And that is not true. I have helped so many clients do this, and I know other practitioners who are doing this. So don't think that if you have gallbladder issues and that you can't heal. But also don't think that if you've had your gallbladder removed, that you're healed. That is actually a side thing. It's just not going to really help, because the real problem is the digestive issue. So they took out the pain sensor, but they didn't tell you how to fix your digestion. The other people that this is for, you're in the right place, is if your doctor says your labs are normal, but you feel terrible. And I know this happened to me all the time. Also, if you're still bloated and tired, you have some chronic fatigue going on, you have weight gain. That was another question in the groups. Is it normal to gain a lot of weight after you have your gallbladder removed? No, it's common, but it's not normal. I know I did. I gained 50 pounds. And so it's also for you, and you're in the right place here, if you've tried everything and you just don't know what else to do. Because I thought I had tried everything until I started learning more. And so this is what I'm hoping to do for you. And also, if you believe God has a better plan for you, there is a better way. And I really want to emphasize this. There's, again, a lot of misinformation of, what's done is done, or there is no healing. And I want to tell you that God is a God of restoration. From someone like me who had so many issues, I had SIBO, H. pylori, a chronic E. coli infection. I had chronic fatigue, hyperparathyroidism. So it's not my thyroid, it was the parathyroids. We have four underneath our thyroid. I had that going on. I was heading into osteopenia at 35 years old, 40 years old. And so I have reversed all of that. And I have the labs to show it, but you have to, one, believe that it can happen, and two, do the work and align with the patterns and principles, or it just doesn't work. All right. Jeremiah 30:17 says, I will restore your health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord. I love that, declares the Lord. There is such power in a declaration. He didn't say for those, who do everything all the time right, or for those who are special. It's, he will do this. With that said, we need to align with his patterns and his principles. And we'll be talking about that. That's what this whole podcast channel is about, Gallbladder Gone, right? Is getting back into alignment and knowing what even that looks like. All right, so here is what we're going to cover today. Why your labs look normal, but you feel terrible, and the 3 symptoms no one warned you about, and why they are all connected. This is the fascinating part to me, is we tend to, and our doctors look at the systems of the body very separately. Like if you have a problem, you go to with stomach, you have a gastrointestinal problem, right? But if they find out there's a liver involved, then you have to go to the liver specialist. The liver specialist says, but you also have kidneys going on. You have to go to a urologist. Oh, and then you have to, and so you end up having 15 doctors, 12 different types of medication, and you're still left going, I still feel horrible. And so when we start to go, oh, these are connected. And this is what I've noticed when I work with people and when people are healing, is that the Lord works in multiples. He is a God of exponentials. And so when you do one good thing, one right thing for your body, it doesn't just help one thing. It helps multiple things. So for example, people who talk about ice baths, right? It doesn't just fix the nervous system. It helps balance hormones. It helps sleep regulation. It helps all these things. So it's not just one thing. It's the one good thing that does a lot of things. So that's what we're wanting to do, is work in exponentials here. And so when people ask me, how long does it take to heal? My program is a year long, because within that year, you're going to have so much progress, because maybe it's taking you 30, 40, 50 years to get to that point that you're sick, but it doesn't have to take that long to get out. But it does take discipline and diligence and consistently good effort on the things that matter and move the needle. All right. We're also going to cover herbs, I'm an herbalist as well. So this is like my sweet jam. I totally love it. A simple place that you can start today. I love practicality, how we can put something into action right now, and why this is not just a health problem. It's a design problem. So when we get the gallbladder out, it changes the design. So we have to learn to work with it. Okay. So if you're enjoying what you're listening to right now, please drop a heart in the comments if this is resonating with you. If you've gone through this, please, please, please. And if you've had surgery recently, then drop a note in the comments, because I read every single one, and I want to engage with you and pray for you, and build a community. All right. So God built our system very particularly, very interwovenly, and it's complex, yet it's simple to use, to bring back into balance when we know what we're doing. All right, so let's talk about this. So that we have the liver is a big old organ, and it's right under your right ribs, kind of up behind that lower rib. It's really big. And then we have just down from there with a little tube is your gallbladder. So the liver makes this bile. and the bile gets squirted into the gallbladder, and the gallbladder concentrates it, not just a little, but 5 to 15 times what it is. So it's a really concentrated bile. And then we eat fat, and then the gallbladder squirts and releases the right amount of bile, and this fat gets digested. So we eat this fat and it goes through this process and it emulsifies, and then we can get it into our tissues. All right, so this is all that happens before we have surgery, right? So what happens when we get our gallbladder removed? So after the gallbladder is removed, the liver still makes bile. So it's still doing a great job there. But now the bile is just dripping into the small intestine, right? So there's no concentrated squirt. And what that does is it's not enough oftentimes. So we have to start, I always think about it this way. If you've had your gallbladder removed, you've got to start doing the work of the gallbladder or assisting it, what it would have done. And we'll talk about how to do that. But it's the same thing like I got my tonsils out, because this is all part of my whole journey of being sick. I got tonsillitis, and then I kept getting strep. I got strep 9 times in 6 months. They didn't know what to do with me. I was getting antibiotics after antibiotics that messed up my digestive system. After that, it was just all downhill. And so, but now these are major lymph nodes. And if you don't have them, then you need to be draining your lymph nodes, draining from the head to the rest of the body, all that lymph, because you don't have the organ to do that. Most people don't know this. They just get an organ out and move on with their life. And so that can cause headaches and sinus issues and eye issues and ear issues if we're not moving the lymph down through our tonsils. And if we don't have tonsils, we have to do it manually. So the same principle applies here, is that when you get your gallbladder removed, yeah, our body can still function, but it doesn't function optimally until you actually start doing the things that help. So we have that constant now drip into the small intestines, which can also cause some irritation. And we need to support the body in actually breaking it down, all that fat. And we need fat. So this idea that we're just going to eliminate fat or a low fat diet, what does that do for women, especially women, when we need these fats to help create hormones? So now we're fat deficient, we're hormone deficient, our hair dries out, our skin dries out, but that's the least of our problems. Now we have foggy brain and hormones are all cattywonk, and it comes back to digestion. And again, just because we got our gallbladder out does not mean we fix digestion. It may have helped a little bit because the pain sensor is gone and it's not impeding us, but it's definitely not helping us. All right, so in Psalms 139:14, it says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that word fearfully is actually translated to reverently made. And I want to tell you that this is so true. And the more I learn about the body, I've been doing this for so many years. I've worked in doctor's offices. I've worked as a professor of nutritional sciences at a university. I've taken multiple courses. Like every time I learn something, I am humbled at how amazing and reverently our bodies are made. And when something is removed, it needs support because it works together in this beautiful symbiotic relationship. And this support exists because God made sure of it. He's full of contingency plans. He knew this would happen. He's not oblivious. I always have my herbal tea on hand. All right, so what happens when your labs are normal, but you're not feeling well? So the thing to really understand here is doctors test for disease, so not for optimum wellness. And so, for example, numbers might be something like this. Your iron is within the range, but it's on the low end, but optimal is actually past the high end, right? So we are being told that our iron levels are normal, but we feel like crud. We're tired. We can hardly breathe. And so I did have anemia because I couldn't digest. So if I couldn't digest my food, I was not getting iron, I was not getting magnesium, I was not getting any of these amazing vitamins and minerals. So I started to get depleted in everything. Calcium got low, hence my bones. So what happens is I was looking at a lot of these things and they were normal, but I was on the way low end. I had just enough iron to be in the green, but my ferritin, which they never tested, was way low. And that's like the storage of iron. So it was like at a 12, and it needs to be at, they say, in the 30s, but optimally it needs to be in the 70s to feel good. And so learning this, that just because something is in the normal range does not mean it is in the optimal range. Also, there's a big difference between not sick and feeling good, feeling well. So we don't want to just be sitting at that plateau of, well, I don't feel horrible. It reminds me of when I have a family member who will never say that something is good. He'll just say it's not bad. And that's not what we're going for. We're going for feeling good. Also, standard tests do not measure bile flow, fat absorption, or fat soluble vitamins. Also, when you get blood tests, it's a snap in time. And it doesn't give you usually a full range unless you're doing a test that requires you to do multiple testings throughout the day. Like if you're doing SIBO testing, they'll have you drink something and then you blow into a container and you do it like on the hour for 3 or 4 hours. So that's going to be consistent, but just one blood draw is just one snapshot in time. And so you can have all normal results and still feel incredibly terrible. And there is a reason for this. And it's important that we know this. So you're not making this up in your head. And I feel like so many women who comes to see me, it's like they know something is wrong. They know that things aren't right, but they're keep being told or even implied that they're just worrying about it, or they should focus on something else. They should let it go. It's not real. It starts to make us think it's in our heads, and it's not in our heads. It is, your body is telling you something, and it's important to listen to that. So you just need to find someone who understands this and can listen, not just listen, but give real feedback. Again, normal versus common, and what is normal versus optimum. And we want to be in that optimum range. So there are 3 symptoms and 1 root cause. So I'm going to talk about 3 different symptoms of this poor digestion and after surgery things that we need to do. So the first symptom is that bloating and gas and bathroom emergencies. So you can either have bathroom emergencies or you can have severe constipation. And on these groups, it was just super sad that, people are like, you could sense the urgency in their messages. And a lot of people say, oh, take more fiber, take Miralax. And that actually can do more harm because we're not fixing the digestion. In fact, we're just compacting things and it's getting worse. Like I said, there's a lot of misinformation, but when you don't have any information, you don't realize how bad that information is. So when this is happening, this symptom, it's because fat is not being digested properly. And so you can still have fat come in. And this is interesting when I work with my clients too. I teach inside my course how to read body signals. And I did a podcast I'll post it here, about the 5 signs your body's giving you. But you can even look in the toilet sometimes. And if there's oil, when you pee or when you have a bowel movement, it's not being digested and it's not being absorbed. And there's things to look at, signs to see. Super important. Also, undigested fat ferments in the gut and it causes bloating. And I'm telling you, I know when this happened to me, I'd have some fat, I'd blow up like a balloon. It would hurt so much. And it took several hours for me to find any relief. And that it's horrible. So this is not IBS. People will say, oh, it's irritable bowel syndrome. This is bile insufficiency. And this is a very serious thing, but easily remedied, or how about simply remedied, and when you know what to do. All right, symptom number 2 that happens is hormonal weight gain. And So the bile's job, one of the bile's jobs, so we usually associate it again with hormonal, like with digestion. But what we don't understand is that bile also carries estrogen out of the body. It also helps carry feces out of the body. So if we don't have enough of it, it's actually constipates us and it makes our hormones go crazy. So if we don't have this good bile flow, that estrogen builds up. So when our body releases these hormones, that it'll go through the liver and the liver will help clean it up and bile will take it out. And there's a couple other things that happen, but I don't want to get too technical. It doesn't happen. And so it keeps circulating and it turns into this metabolic waste. And so we become toxic. And that's another thing that I find interesting, that women will come to me and they're like, I can't explain it, but I feel toxic. I'm like, yeah, because you are. And so they've tried to do, detoxes because they're like, I feel toxic. Let's do a detox. But they don't understand that there's 5 different pathways that we have to open to have a successful detox. And so what they've noticed is that they'll do these detoxes, they feel horrible, they hate it, and they end up worse off than they actually started. And nothing seems to work. That's why they say nothing seems to work, because they're doing things in the wrong order. And God is a God of order. He's a God of patterns. The last thing is estrogen is a builder. So it's actually what creates our breasts and makes us curvy. But when we get over estrogenized, I don't even know if that's a word, we start to put on a lot of weight in the belly and the hips. But also, I've really noticed women who get really heavy chested. That to me is also a sign that they're estrogen dominant. Everything is kind of growing, they're overdeveloping. And I had a client recently say to me, we were talking about some of her successes and her wins, and she goes, how come you haven't asked me about my weight? And I said, because I know you've lost at least 20 pounds. And she goes, I have. And I go, yeah, that's what happens when you balance your hormones and your digestion. And she goes, and it's just staying off. And I said, yeah, so it's something you won't ever have to worry about. And I forget to ask sometimes because it's such a normal thing that happens when you start doing this. All right, symptom number 3 is that fatigue and brain fog. So when you don't have good bile, your body cannot absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K, which are fat-soluble vitamins. They need fat to be used. And they come in the form of fat too. So we need this to be working beautifully in tandem. So low vitamin D, we know, leads to exhaustion. And everybody's saying, oh, you need vitamin D, take vitamin D supplements. But actually, if you go out into the sun, it depends on your skin type. I use an app called D-Minder for my clients. I don't have a problem. I go out into the sun all the time. And it will tell you when and how long is the best time for you to stay out for your body to create these beautiful hormones. So just taking it doesn't work. And there's a lot of myth behind that. But it also, having that low D, is that foggy thinking, that low mood, kind of a depression. And then you start to think that you're lazy, but you're not lazy. Your body is absolutely starving for nutrients. If you don't have enough fat, that's what your brain is like, 80% fat. So if you don't have fat coming in, your brain is starving. And so we need to make sure that we are able to digest and assimilate. So this is the thing too, is a lot of people say, oh, I'm working on my digestion. Well, digestion, assimilation, and evacuation are all important. You need to make sure that things are coming in, they're being used, and they're being taken out. That's the key. There's a whole cycle there. All right, so I want to tell you a story about a client, and we're going to call her Mary because I didn't get her permission to tell the story. And it's not an unusual story, and I've watched this happen over and over, but this is my most recent one. And every single time we do this, we do things in the right order at the right time, we get the same results. So she came to me and her hormones were crazy. And this is, she had gained 20 pounds, couldn't lose it after having 2 children, but the last child that she had is like 6 years old. So she's like, I should be able to get rid of this weight. And she had chronic fatigue. She was so tired all the time. And so when we helped her bile flow, we focused on digestion. So that's always the first phase. We focus on digestion, then we focus on mindset and healing, then we focus on hormones, and then we focus on the tools. So it's so interesting because tools comes last, or there's a fifth one, which is walking in it and creating a healing lifestyle. This is how my program is based, but the tools are the fourth. So a lot of people jump right into tools. What can I do? What can I buy? What can I take? But those things don't matter until you get the body in order. And then once it's in order, it's like, oh, I'll detox for you. Oh, I'll have energy for you. I'll sleep for you. I'll do all these things for you because now we have it in the right order. And so we just tweaked a few things in Mary's plan. She had already come to me. She was eating well. She thought she had a few things that she wasn't doing. We placed some herbs strategically throughout her day. And she's now has tons of energy. Being a mom, it feels good, sleeps well. She's no longer dreading her cycle and she feels balanced. So this is what happens when you are aligning with God's plan. All right. The next one is God did not leave you without a plan. And this is where I felt alone and sad. But in Psalms 104:14, it says, He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle and herb for the service of man. It's like he has a plan. He has put things here already. And this is where it gets pretty exciting because, again, like I said, did not leave us without a plan. And this is where I'm like, oh my gosh, there are so many things that are already here not being used by those who don't have a gallbladder. So the first one is one of my favorite herbs, and it's dandelion root. So this is first of all, it tastes amazing. If you get it roasted, if you like the taste of coffee, it's so good without the caffeine, but all the benefits of healing the liver and helping it make more bile. And it helps clear out that old estrogen. So it's kind of like helping the bile create more bile, but the bile also do its job. And it's been used for thousands of years, and it can be taken as a tea. Like I said, it's really delicious. If you don't like the taste of coffee, you can do it raw, and it's just a little bit of a mild flavor. It's really good. Or you can take it in a tincture. So we know that this is so important to add herbs. They've been used for thousands of years. And I remember when I first started my journey, I was like, I don't want to take anything. Like there was this power in not taking anything, and I don't need support and I don't need supplements. I need to just get my body to work. But it's been used for thousands of years. We have always used herbs and foods as medicine. And so it's not a weakness, it's actually a relationship that we need to start to develop and have these herbs in our kitchens, in our tea cabinets, know how to use them as a tea, as an oil, as an infusion, as a decoction, as a however they can be used. I love taking 10 herbs. I tell my clients, take 10 herbs and know how to use them 100 ways, then 100 herbs and you know how to use them one way. So it's something that's incredibly important to learn. All right, the second one is milk thistle. So I want to really be specific here. I'm giving you herbs, but this is not a complete protocol. A lot of people, again, want to know the one thing that they can take to heal their body, and it's actually a series of things repeated over time and brings the body back into wellness. So milk thistle, we call these herbs allies. They're support material. And that's what, even if you take the word supplement, it's to supplement. So you're supposed to be doing 85, 90% of the work, and these are going to supplement that 10 to 15%. So milk thistle protects your liver and it starts to heal. And it's been well documented. And after gallbladder removal, your liver has to work so much harder. And so it absolutely needs that support. And it helps make the bile thinner and flows better and reduces the inflammation that causes that fatigue and brain fog. All right, the third one that I want you to use, again, this is part of a plan, is those bitters. So bitters, my favorite is gentian, and then I make a tincture combined with a whole bunch of different bitters and digestive herbs, and I take it all the time. That's why I make my own, because it's a lot cheaper to make my own than continuously buy these things, so you can do that. Bitters trigger your whole digestive system to wake up. So about half hour before you eat, you take these and it goes, hey guys, we are having incoming here. Everybody wake up and start producing. And so this increases that bile production and stomach acid and digestive enzymes, which are all important. So we're just kind of focusing on bile, but usually we have low stomach acid, we have compromised digestive enzymes, we're not chewing our food, those type of things. So this is biblical. We've known that bitter herbs have been used in the Bible as part of the Passover. And so God designed bitterness into food for a purpose. And I'll put a link here for the 6 tastes podcast that I did, how to use food as medicine. All right, so this is where we use food as medicine. Like I said, I have a whole podcast dedicated to this, but beets and beet greens help thin the bile. Beets and applesauce become your best friend after a gallbladder removal. Also, lemon water with salt first thing in the morning, make it really warm, like a hug in a mug. I do a quart every morning right out of the gate, starts to wake everything up, flushes the system. Beans, oh my goodness, beans will help feed that good gut bacteria, but more importantly, beans will help feed that good gut bacteria, but more importantly, it grabs toxin and takes it out of the body. So that excess estrogen, the excess cortisol, the excess adrenaline, all of these things starts to take it out of the body. So they're amazing. Cruciferous veggies, which we know have so many benefits to helping heal the body. And those are going to be like your broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, have some every day. Smaller meals are easier on the system. I know that every client that I have come in, we overeat. We don't eat to 80%, we eat to 115%. And that is now way too much for our digestive system to handle. So getting in that habit. Also, those bitter greens. So having arugula and broccoli sprouts and dandelion greens added to your meals. If you don't love the taste, that's okay. Have them separately, and then so you don't have to have a whole salad filled with this. But sometimes, like I love London rocket, and it's a weed that grows everywhere. And so I'll go out and I'll just grab some of that and eat a whole bunch, and then go eat my dinner, because I really don't want my whole dinner to taste bitter. And so that's a little tip and trick. All right. Food is medicine that we don't, this is not medicine. This is terrible stuff. Avoid fried foods, large amounts of fat at once. So, like a lot of people say, oh, we're going to just, drink a whole bunch of fat, and it's just too hard for us unless, as you heal your body, you can have more and more. And your body can handle more and more, but we still want to make sure that we are not having seed oils, which is that canola, soybean, those increase inflammation exponentially and cause a lot of problems, especially for those without a gallbladder, and eating those big heavy meals. And so when we're looking at this, food is medicine, and it's important to look at it as such. So the quick tip is start small. So if you're going to have beets, the thing that I love, I've lived all over the world. I've lived in China, I've lived in Europe, I've lived, all over the country. Anyway, one of the things that I love about Americans, if a little bit is good, a lot must be better. And so if a little bit of like prune juice worked, a whole glass must be better. That's from a true story from a client. She was hurting for certain. If you have a little bit of anything, doesn't mean a lot is better. So we're just gonna start small. 1 beet, 1 cup of lemon water, and see how you do, because it can cause you to be a little nauseous. And then do another one, and then do another one, and build up. So trying to change just the pattern of your eating to one less fried food meal, and small changes over time. We want diligence. I had someone inquire about my program. Well, I have this all the time, but recently, um, and she was like, I have so much to change. I've just lived a life that up until this point has gotten her to this point. And I said, absolutely. And that's why we take it 1 week at a time, one thing at a time. We implement the principle, we practice it, we create a habit with it, and then we can move on to the next one because these things add up. They truly do change. All right. This is not just a health problem, it's a design problem. When we take away the gallbladder, now it's a redesigning. And one of my favorite scriptures is in 3 John 1:2. It said, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers." So the goal is to be healthy. When we're healthy, we are we can serve others, we can be valuable. Not that being sick is invaluable, but for the longest time, I had loving people who would support me and help me. And I love being on the other end where I'm able to give support and love and compassion and to live my divine assignment. So God designed your body as a system. So every part has been connected. So when one part is removed, when that gallbladder is removed, the system needs that support now. So it just doesn't need to be abandoned and be told, just give it time and it'll work itself out. I can't believe how many times I've heard that. And this is by doctors. And I want you to be careful when you're listening to somebody. Ask them, do you still have your gallbladder? Because it's amazing to me the amount of information and truth I'm going to give you who's from someone who's never actually experienced not having a gallbladder. It's all theoretical. It's all based on other people's experience and none of their own. And if that person is a man, he's experiencing it differently because we have such drastic differences in our digestive system. And I'll link that video right here about the differences between men and women and why it's taking women longer to heal. All right, so this is not about being perfect. It's about walking in the right direction and aligning with the patterns and principles of healing. Luke 8:43-48 talks about a woman who had suffered for 12 years, and with the issue of blood, she had spent money everywhere and she was ostracized from the community, and she pushed through the crowd and she was immediately healed. So her suffering was not her final chapter, and it is not yours either. We just need to press through and do the things that are going to move the needle. I want to tell you a little bit about my program. If it sounds like something that you would benefit from or know someone who would benefit from, I have a program that is specifically designed around God's design for the human body. And it's designed for women navigating a life after gallbladder removal, or women who are wanting to avoid gallbladder removal because they have digestive issues. And I've helped so many women in it says 10, it's more than 10 years. Yeah, it's been about 20 years with this framework. It's practical, it's biblical, and it's totally doable. All right. We need to remove what's harming us. That's the first thing. And then give the body what it needs. And then trust the design and walk in alignment. Those are the 4 steps. So again, a lot of people jump in and they're like, what do I need to do? And it's like, okay, first the question might need to be, what do you need to stop doing? And there's a whole lot of that. And then it's, what do I need to do? And then that's in trusting the design and the process and knowing the pattern. And that's walking in alignment. It's becoming a woman who walks in health. This is from a client. After working with Jamie, I finally feel like myself again. I had given up thinking I would ever feel normal. I was wrong. And that's from Madison. So here's what we covered today. Your labs looking normal does not mean that you are fine. There is a real physical reason you feel the way that you do, and bile insufficiency is the root cause. Here's also what we covered today. Number 2 is bloating, hormonal weight gain, and fatigue are all connected. They're not separate things going on. And they all trace back to what happened when bile flow is disrupted. So if you have a gallbladder, but it's full of stones, bile flow is still disrupted. You are not broken, and you just need the right support. The third thing that we covered today was that God places plants and foods on the earth to help us. We need to know what they are and how to use them. Dandelion root, milk thistle, bitter herbs are just the starting point. So your food choices matter. Adding things like beets, lemon water, cruciferous vegetables, applesauce are all going to help heal the body. And when I say applesauce, I want to be clear that it's like made from apples, like in your blender with a squeeze of lemon, not something that's been processed. All right, walking in alignment with how God designed your body is the strategy. Suffering is not required. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people. I was in a group and this woman said that she, this is just the life. So get over it and we're all going to just be suffering. And she was telling people that, and it's something I don't believe. So in the screen or in the comments, put the word restored. Begin to understand that you are designed for healing. If this resonated with you, I have a free training for back that is practical, biblical, and doable. It's 3 fast and easy tips to heal digestion in 7 days. And it's the exact first steps I do with every client. And it's in the right order so your body can actually respond. So 7 days, it's real results, it's free, and you will learn so much from it. So until next time, write in the comments, tell me what you're struggling with and what is one key takeaway you had from today's episode. I'll see you in the next video. So